Hello and welcome to episode 6 of our 8-day anniversary special of Around the Verse. Today we are celebrating RSI, Roberts Space Industries. I'm Sandi Gardiner.
And I'm Chris Roberts. Little known fact, Roberts Space Industries is a nod to
it was when, in the 20th century when Chris Roberts was born.
No, seriously. Way back in the 21st century, RSI became the first company to manufacture ships capable of quantum travel with their production of commercially available spaceships. Traveling the stars became a lot more accessible to a much wider audience, and a new age of human development began. Plus, if revolutionizing travel wasn't enough, RSI was also the company that helped first develop the tech behind terraforming planets. Over the next 8+ centuries, they have gone on to produce a staggeringly wide array of ships and vehicles, from military staples like the famous Bengal carrier to everyday personal craft like the ubiquitous Aurora, and even ground vehicles like the Ursa Rover. There are few places you can go to in the universe without spotting an RSI design.
Now let's go to Jared and our designers in Shipshape to learn more about two specific ships in the RSI lineup: the luxury multi-crew vessel, the Constellation Phoenix, and the industrial salvager, the Orion.
There you go.
Shipshape.
Roberts Space Industries, a name synonymous with space travel for as long as space travel has been accessible to the everyday person. Manufacturer of some of Star Citizen's most recognizable and signature spaceships, the Aurora and the Constellation. The Aurora and its 5 variants represents the beginning of your adventure into the Star Citizen universe. In an accounting of every spaceship held by backers in Star Citizen, did you know that 1 in 4 is an Rsi Aurora? That makes it the most prominent vessel in the game. For the Constellation and its variants, RSI's offering represents the first foray into multi-crew gameplay for most. And the shining pinnacle of that line is the ever so stylish Phoenix. Let's check in with some of the team working on bringing this marvel of form and function to life.
The Phoenix is a variant of the Constellation. It's supposed to be the luxury version, whereas the Andromeda was more of a utilitarian, all-around general ship and combat-focused, and the Kill is more exploration-focused. The Phoenix is a luxury ship with a bunch of amenities, beds, hot tub, bathrooms, and skylights, and all that kind of fun stuff.
We'd redone the Constellation base and got it up to spec. It looks good, and now we roll through the variants. And usually a variant means not a lot of work to get another ship, but it's another piece to play with. But for the Phoenix, it's got a luxury element to it. So the other RSI Phoenix or Constellation ships are not luxury ships in the slightest. They all have specific roles. This one's specific role is it's a luxury ship for the stylish. So the redesign is going with that in mind. So after doing the cut lists and getting on the forums and checking out what people are saying, interacting, asking questions and stuff, I did the same thing for the Phoenix. There were a lot of opinions and a lot of suggestions and comments to be had with the Constellation Phoenix, and I agree with almost 100% of them. There's this thing called growing pains that happens, and as the company progresses and as these systems come online, these systems give us more for less. Like the damage system gives us a whole lot more for a lot less work, a lot less system resources, everything across the board. I mean, before then, we had to hand model every single damaged, greeble, nurney, every little hole, everything. And that's multiplied per piece on every ship, and that's multiplied by 4 for every damaged state. And then you have to do like the maximum destroyed 100%, where the ship just tears in half. And we had to model all that, and that takes a significant amount of time, which time is money. The solution came up, and when I saw it, I didn't believe it. But when I was watching the demo for our new proposed damage, which is now the damage that's in the game, it's a whole lot more simplistic. It takes the modelers, the tech team, everybody a whole lot less time to have a fully done ship that's fully destructible with not even, I mean, it's like 2,000% less work. than it was before.
We took out the body section, which used to be the cargo bay. It still is the cargo bay, but we had to put a floor down so that you can have all this room to walk around, and then put a bunch of seats and televisions and other amenities. Windows, yeah. I think the airlocks on the side are gone. We expanded it so it's bigger. We made it longer also, and it's, I think, a little bit taller. The Lynx rover is going to be in it. It doesn't have as much height, I believe, but it's way more width, so you don't have to like have someone like watching you park the thing. So it's a lot more spacious. The tail, the nose, the neck for the crew quarters, and the habitation module, that's all the same. So we might do some material swaps just to give it a different look, but other than that, it'll be the same.
So when we went back for the initial redesign, we thought about it in a very modular way, linear way, much like a level designer does. If you are an environment artist or designer at any other studio, you have to approach designing and the creation of assets for something that is immensely huge in that type of way. And that's how the bigger ships, the cap ships, and the Constellation is just right on the cusp of being just a gigantic ship. Because the ship is so big, for this variant, when we did the initial redo, it was going to take so much time to do that amount of work that we had both me, or my boss, Chris, and I working on the ship at the same time, and it still took an immense amount of time to get the ship done and get it right. It
was a challenge kind of figuring out how we were going to move the pieces around, but when we originally built it, it was built as a modular thing. So we had the nose, the neck, the body, the tail, and those were all separate pieces so that we could do this change once we go to the Taurus and stuff like that, because it's going to have a different body also. So it is a challenge trying to fit all the pieces together, but since we designed it as a modular kind of ship, then it kind of comes together that way. When we started this, we were already done with item 2.0, at least the initial implementation. So when we were designing it, all the seats and everything are already item 2.0. Everything that you interact with is going to be item 2.0. The components, sections that you pull in and out are item 2.0. The screens are item 2.0. It's already something that we have in mind when we're making everything in the back.
The hot tub was a hot topic issue. So it seemed like after reading, it was 50% just, they did not like the hot tub. 50% love the hot tub, they want the hot tub. In the original state, the hot tub is an above ground hot tub, and that's, it's just not cool enough for this type of ship. It's not cool enough. So in reading all this stuff and commenting with people, a real easy solution to give both parties what they want was to sink the hot tub into the ground, have a controller system where if you don't like the hot tub, just don't retract the floor and reveal where the hot tub is. You have just normal floor there, and then for people who want to get in the hot tub, they just gotta hit the button. It was a creative way, and it was also, it's the way hot tubs in luxury situations are. Like, they're in the ground, they're covered, they're put away, they're hidden. It takes more money to do that, so it makes more sense that that's what would be present on a luxury ship like the Phoenix. Materials got brought up a lot. Actually, a lot of people in the community gave suggestions on like what type of materials were in there. I'd throw out like a couple things like, hey, what's the most endangered wood in the world? And like people were actually sending me like links to the most endangered species of tree that would be, you know, the most expensive wood as like the wood trim. I was saving all that stuff down because that's great reference. That got brought up. People were bringing up like rare materials that some I didn't even know about that could possibly be used. And after studying all these spaces, figuring out like what my template was going to be for the interior. So obviously we have our wood elements. There are some common themes in most luxury material layouts for whether it be a yacht or a train or a jetliner. They all have the same feel and aesthetic. So we have lots of recessed lighting. We have lots of space saving in smart ways to give more space in the actual interior because you're inside of a ship, to the point where it feels big, but it still feels like you're on a ship. Before doing that, putting systems into place where, hey, making variants for the ship's going to be easier because we're putting in a set of rules of modularity. They come together like Lego pieces. We need a variant, like the Phoenix that I'm working on now. The variation is within the body, so the nose can remain the same on the exterior and on the interior. If we need fancier seats, I can switch those out. And then for the neck remains the same, tail remains the same. Body needs immense rework because it's this big luxury interior. Redo that. We need new space now because we have it broken up in a modular way now. I only have to increase the size on one part of it, and then the rest of them just attach in, and it requires way less rework. And that's what the systems are there for. It's to prevent reworking. It's to speed up the process so, frankly, I can do a whole lot more ships in a faster manner, which is my goal, because I like making ships. I like making new ships too. Like, whoever owns this ship, like, this is where the parties are gonna be. Like, that's what I keep thinking as I'm working on it. Like, going to a couple of clubs over the past couple of weekends, like, I'd see certain things. On my flight here, they had some updated recessed lighting on the airplane. I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Like, and it was actually RSI color palette too. It's old orange and blue. I was like, yeah, look, RSI. Yeah, just reworking it to where it feels like, you know, a loungy space, comfortable, luxurious, still functional. You can have your parties on the ship and have your meetings, and I imagine there'll be a lot of friendly gatherings on this ship.
In the words of ship artist Josh Coons, baller. The Constellation Phoenix is currently in white box phase, or more specifically, the white box final approval stage. This means that members of the various review teams will make their recommendations, and work will either continue in white box, where they will address any concerns that were raised, or it will begin its preparations to move into the next phase of the ship pipeline, gray box. We'll update you when we know more. Now, the goal of Roberts Space Industries has always been to make the stars available to individual citizens like you. And with our next ship, RSI aims at letting individuals take over a process formerly controlled solely by megacorporations. Let's check in with some of the team working on the upcoming Rsi Orion.
The Orion is sort of like an endgame mining ship. So I think currently at the moment it's going to be the largest mining ship in the game.
So basically it's got like a tractor beam and a cutter at the front. So that'll take in and cut up asteroids, and then it's going to be dragged through the entire ship. So it's basically like a funnel where it's taken into a refinery and then split and spun out into these big tanks on the side where it can be deposited or sold.
You use it to take on sort of corporations in terms of like mining and transporting ore and stuff like that. So this thing can just go and eat like entire asteroid fields, just sort of mosey around, just eating stuff.
Because the ship's so massive, it's very difficult to turn. So instead of turning it to face what you want to mine, you would just reach out and grab it and pull it towards you. As well as the mining, it can refine them as well. So we've got ideas for, like, you've got the bit at the front, which is the mining part where all the asteroids will be dragged into and munched up with the muncher thing, and then along after that is the refinery, which no other mining ship has. What that does, you can set it to look for certain things in what you've mined. You could just stuff an asteroid in the front and then it will sort out what you find in it. So you can punch in, I want to look for iron or a certain type of mineral or something, and it will just search through that and put it away, and we can have it sort the ores in those. There's like 12 rotating cubes on the back, the cargo pods. We can say, like, this cube's for iron, this cube's for gold, and it will do that for you. So you can just happily let it go once you've set it up how you want.
So because it all comes in through the front, through the mining laser, there's a central corridor chute that runs through the entire ship. So that's sort of defined this hexagonal shape that builds up all the walls. So in each of the rooms you can kind of see it's slanted. It's not traditional squares with slanted walls. It's that the walls themselves actually slant in almost every room. So that's going to be pretty unique about this ship.
There's not much room around for the crew or anything, so we had to scale it up to fit all that in, which is also good because in the original scale it was a bit too small for the final mining ship you would get, so it would be a bit disappointing to get it, because originally it was only half the length of the Idris. You would like your absolute final most expensive mining ship to be a thing of like, oh, it's massive and could do loads of stuff, so we've scaled it up pretty much 100% bigger than it was, just to be able to fit all the stuff in and for it to be impressive.
It's very much industrial, so the center section is going to be quite open plan and very mechanical feeling, and then we're going to have to try and have habitation areas a lot brighter and more personal, so it's going to be, again, sort of just trying to balance that.
What we've done with the interior is we focused it around the ore funnel, and it's got that RSI sort of trapezoid, rhombus sort of shape, so that's all arrayed around that ore funnel. So you have the ore funnel in the centre, corridors either side of that, and then branching off of that is rooms on top and around. And as you run through the ship, you're always aware of that ore funnel. I suppose it'll be making a lot of noise and stuff. We're going to have windows you can look into it, because that'll be cool.
So the Orion's currently at white box. So we've basically taken the designer block out and just sort of fleshed out a bit more, just getting the rooms sort of looking what we want them to look like in the final thing. And once that's all been okayed, we'll then move on to grey box and get some sort of finer details and materials and stuff in there. So
we went through quite a few iterations with design before we settled on this one. And most of the time the limitation was just size. So although it's already a massive ship, there was this limitation of the tunnel running through the centre. And it meant that the rooms around the side had to be more like corridor sized as opposed to room sized. It's more sort of gameplay focused in that respect. So basically making sure that the player can move around and he's got enough space to sort of do what he wants to do. It doesn't take too long to get from, say, the cockpit to the cargo bay or something like that, because you don't want to be running around the entire ship. The white box stage is really sort of interesting and really sort of creative, just because you get the ability to sort of change how the ship feels. So taking the Orion as an example, you can basically, just by changing the angle that the walls are, you can change how the ship feels. So if you wanted it to feel claustrophobic, you can put the walls sort of like in a V shape, because then you've got all the wall like gubbins and stuff on the side feel a lot closer to you. Whereas if the walls are like a pyramid, it feels a lot more open because you've got a lot more sort of ground space. It's got that panelled sort of look to it, where you've got your sleek, sharp panels, and under that, sandwiched between them, is all the tech. So you've got the ore funnel along, and that's surrounded by tech parts that are open to space, and you can see that. And then on top and underneath, it's sandwiched on with the plates, kind of like the Constellation nacelles, that sort of thing, where they're one shape, but they've got all that little greebling in it. And then from the front, you've got that classic RSI trapezoid sort of thing going on.
That's another big boat. Now today I can confirm that the Rsi Orion is nearly white box complete, as the team is working in the identify and create additional concept stage before they move into gray box. Soon the dream of shooting massive mining lasers from our ship's faces will be a reality, and we'll have more to share on this ship as it continues its progression throughout the pipeline. Finally, before we leave you today, let's go ahead and check in with the team working to bring Star Citizen's first exclusively terrestrial vehicle to life in Alpha 3.0, the Rsi Ursa Rover.
The Ursa Rover is a 6-man APC for RSI, and it's basically designed for planet-side missions and going where you can't go with a flying vehicle, or if you need to get somewhere by the ground or just explore. The Ursa was my first model that I made here at Foundry 42, so it was basically just trying to get a gist on sort of the workflow and how everything's made. So as a result of that, I went a bit crazy with the sort of POM tool. So the interior has quite a bit more sort of detailing than I really wanted to have. The Ursa Rover is a 6-wheeled APC, and it's got very planar faces. It's very flat. It's not a lot of curved surfaces. It's got kind of like a 90s charm to it, almost. Just trying to stick with the style of all the other Rsi stuff that's currently out there.
Styling, we tried to keep it quite consistent with the sort of Rsi style, but at that point in time it had been going through quite a lot of changes between the sort of Constellation and the Bengal and some of the larger ships. There's quite sort of distinct style changes, and with the rover we didn't really have that kind of space to do angled walls or anything like that, because it was quite sort of quite constricted in terms of its size, because it had to fit in the Constellation cargo bay. Yeah, we sort of went more sort of the texturing side more than sort of modelling interesting pieces. So it's got like padded walls on the sides and stuff like that. Just sort of more interesting elements while keeping it super tiny and small, because it needed to fit in the Constellation cargo bay, which is a very small space for a vehicle.
Well, we worked very close with the concept artist. He gave us a lot to work with to begin with, but the large limitation was that it had to fit inside the Constellation and it had a very low ceiling. So the idea is that it can sort of squat down into this compact mode for fitting under the ship. It's meant to be pretty hardy. It's very armor plated. There's no real bullets are going to go through it or anything. It should handle most things very well. For defense, it's got a manned turret that the co-pilot can use to attack anything that happens to be coming at them.
Yeah, so primarily the rover is going to be used for sort of like exploration. So if you get a rover with the Constellation Taurus, I believe, and that's primarily used for sort of exploration. So, you know, if you find a new planet that no one's seen before, you can basically take your ship to the planet's surface and then sort of drive around and find any sort of interesting like mineral deposits or something like that, something else like that. And then you can call your mate that has a prospector or something like that, and then they can come in and, you know, sort of mine away and stuff like that. So it's quite nice for seeing a lot of the planet's surface while not going too fast. So you sort of have the ability to sort of slow down and see more of the sort of planet tech, which in itself is pretty impressive stuff.
Like most ships coming to Alpha 3.0, the Rsi Ursa is just about complete and is going through the final stages of flight prep phase. Those of you in the PTU can test it out right now. It's a fun ride, to be certain. With that, this episode of Ship Shape comes to a wrap, but I'll be right back here tomorrow with a miscellaneous array of ship updates for you to consume. Oh, not miscellaneous, MISC, another specific array of MISC ship updates for you to consume. Until then, if you haven't already, you can take the Observer test currently up on the RSI website for your chance to win a brand new bounty hunting ship, the Anvil Hawk. It's no purchase necessary, and the full rules are there for those of you who are interested. For Ship Shape, I'm Community Content Manager Jared Huckabee. Back to you, Chris and Sandy.
Phoenix is looking really cool. It's a little bit different than what we had in the hangar before, but I think Josh's sort of reconcepting the inside is going to be really cool, from the sort of deployable hot tub and the separate bar and the different staterooms, and there's just generally a lot more sort of area for kind of hanging out and like cruising the universe in style with your friends. So you know, Josh is doing his best to keep the Phoenix up there with the 600 eyes of the world and the 890 jumps. So pretty cool.
Cool. I look forward to that. I need an invite from somebody.
Well, I'll invite you into my ship. You can come visit me.
Oh, that's very nice of you. Make sure to head to the website to find out more on all the available RSI ships, including limited ships that have made their way back to the store until December 4. While you're there, check out our merchandise to receive 20% off everything, including our last few 10-inch Constellation models and RSI Polaris t-shirts.
Yeah, and that's it for day 6. Don't forget to join our special happy hour coming up this Friday, where you can vote for the next brand new Drake ship to go into Star Citizen, which I think will be actually a pretty cool endeavor.
Before we go, all of us would like to give a big thank you to the backers and subscribers for helping us create Star Citizen.
Yeah, we definitely couldn't do it all without you guys, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Until then,
we will see you around the verse. Ready? 6 constellations, 5 pioneers, 4 890 jumps, 3 tumbrels, 2 hammerheads, and a hawk in a pear tree.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.